Welcome back to the After Hours podcast. I'm your host, Francisco Delator. Co-host today, I have Daniel with me, and we're joined with a gentleman from Lee Spirits out in Colorado. We have Nick Lee and Phil Taylor. What's going on, guys?
How's it going? Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's our pleasure. Actually, last week you guys were just in Forbes for Distillery of the Year and Drinks to Go. How's that feel?
Yeah, we won RTD Distillery of the Year in Colorado, so that itself was unexpected. And then Forbes picking it up and writing an article was even more unexpected. So it was a week of good news all around.
Absolutely. So, Nick Lee, you're one of the founders of Lee Spirits, hence the name. But let's get a little background here. How did everything start, and then when did Phil come into the picture?
Yeah, so Lee Spirits was started by me and my cousin Ian. So we're the two co-founders. His last name is also Lee, so that worked out. We had actually run a software startup together, and we did that for a number of years. And I don't know, I don't want to be like the pessimist, but we were kind of just disillusioned by the entire sort of startup culture and software development, and we didn't feel like we were connected to really like local culture. And it was kind of hard to feel like we were actually creating something tangible that was impacting people's lives. So we really just sat down together over a couple of cocktails and kind of wanted to think about what our next venture would be. After a long talk, we realized that the thing that we were both really passionate about were the cocktails in our hands. And so we started a lot of brainstorming and sort of thought experiments and realized that we were both passionate about old sort of pre-prohibition era cocktails and the gin really specifically that went into those cocktails. And so we had the idea to start a distillery and just to try to make the most pre-prohibition era specific gin that we could. And that's where it all sort of got off the ground.
Sounds like we have a little bit in common, Frankie.
Yeah, so I was in talks with Josh Steinfeld, great guy, and and we're going back and forth on our emails. And my email is Francisco Delator at Winhouse Software, so he noticed that too. And Winhouse Software, that's a startup company that we started, Daniel and I and four of our buddies. So.
Nice.
We're well aware of the software space when it comes to creating your own business. There, it's difficult for sure.
Well, if you're not careful, you'll end up with a distillery.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't sound too bad to me.
Yeah.
So I've been in the hospitality industry for as long as I can remember, starting as a dishwasher in a kitchen. But I eventually became a barista, became a bartender, and I fell in love with bartending and the passion, the history, and the craft of it all. And Brooklyn's on Boulder, the tasting room for Lee Spirits has been heralded here as the craft cocktail hub, like one of the originators of the craft cocktail. The head bartender here at the time was Nathan Wyndham, who was prolific in this town for bringing craft cocktails to Colorado Springs. So I personally knew that I wanted to study under him. So I started here on the floor, serving, not touching a single bottle behind the bar for about a year and just absorbing everything I could learn. So I used to bother Nate in the distillery when he worked on any R&D products, any liqueurs he was making, just to kind of learn a little bit, integrate myself further. And I eventually just picked it all up and just ran with it as best as I could. That's like the one thing that Lee Spirits is definitely good for, is promoting their people and their sense of creativity and allowing them to flourish in that way. So kind of how I signed on and got to where I am at currently.
Well, you've been described as a mastermind of your craft and a very brilliant man. What techniques and I don't know, like out of the box thinking do you bring to the table?
It's a fantastic compliment. I appreciate that. For one, I have a very different upbringing. I like to think my mother's Filipino. I was born in the Philippines. So like what I'm used to in seeing flavors and the way we integrate them and use like our experience as a method of communication through the medium of making a cocktail is a little different than most people here in Colorado Springs or in America in general. So I like to think I bring a little bit of that uniqueness to my personal style. But beyond that, like I'm a big fan of finding the new thing, finding the weirdest thing, and just making it. I'm pretty commonly found in like random grocery stores, finding random ingredients to try to make an alcohol, and then just making it work behind the bar.
What's the weirdest thing that you'd say you've ever made when it comes to making drinks?
So Josh, who you were talking about, actually caught me in the grocery store, and I had a grocery a little basket full of just random ingredients, and he looks down and he says, "Are you like shopping for home?" And I said, "No, this is for the bar. I want to make a few liqueurs." And he said, "Why are there Brussels sprouts in your shopping cart?"
Nice.
And I made a Brussels sprout tincture that I paired with a carrot syrup for a cocktail. And everyone looked at it, thought it was weird. Vegetables in cocktails aren't terribly common, especially the high quantity of weird vegetables to put in that kind of cocktail. That might be the weirdest thing I've put together. But it was actually a very well beloved cocktail too at the same time.
I love it. You gotta get your vegetables in every day, you know? You gotta get it in now.
I love that story, just going through, you got some duct tape, got some Brussels sprouts, and you're just like, oh, let's pick it up in the kitchen today. So how long have you guys been in operation?
So we officially registered the company in 2013, and then we spent more than a year just in the R&D phase and really learning everything we possibly could about the industry. And we had some really, really good connections in Colorado Springs that were just absolutely crucial in getting the company off the ground. So we went and I volunteered with another local whiskey distillery called Distillery 291 for a number of months, just learning everything I possibly could about distillation and like spirits and the history and like so on. And Ian, my cousin, he went and worked at a local restaurant group here in town, volunteering as a bartender. So he learned everything possible about the restaurant industry and spirits and how to make cocktails and flavor profiles and so on. And then with that knowledge that we learned over that year, we came back together and really sort of put that together and built our dream of the distillery and the tasting room together. So we formally formed the company in the end of 2013 in November. We had products in the market the first time in April of 2014, so over a year. And then our tasting room, Brooklyn's, it opened in November of 2015, so about almost exactly 2 years after we officially filed the paperwork to incorporate.
I think I heard, did you start a new tasting, something about sushi? Sorry.
What?
Maybe not.
No, I wish. I love sushi, but no, not that I can think of.
I was just going to say, so when did you guys open Brooklyn's on Boulder Street?
Yeah, so Brooklyn's on Boulder Street opened in November of 2015.
Okay. And is that just all of your guys? Like, do you guys have any other drinks there that aren't produced by your distillery?
No. So the way Colorado liquor laws work is that every distillery is allowed to have 2 tasting rooms, one that's physically attached to the distillery and one that can be anywhere else in the state. And liquor law dictates that we can only serve products out of our distillery tasting room that we manufacture ourselves. So it really did a few things for us. It motivated us to really focus on creating the classic, like pre-prohibition era cocktails at first that we would want to be on our menu. So everything that you would need to make a Negroni as an example, and so on. And then we branched out from there and really grew into how could we build a full cocktail menu and make all the products ourselves. So that was really the mission from the beginning, so that we could do what we intended to do and be in line with like Colorado liquor laws.
Very nice, very nice. Backtracking, I definitely meant to say slushy, not sushi.
Yes.
So I heard that you guys opened a second tasting room, gin cocktail slushy. Would you guys like to talk about that?
Yeah, for sure. So the distillery is actually attached to Brooklyn's, and it's about 400 square feet. So we really, really learned in the beginning. We actually started in the basement of an old house that was about 300 square feet. So we learned a lot of lessons on how to really, really be efficient in our production and manufacturing processes. And so when we built the first tasting room, which was Brooklyn's, we built a 400 square foot distillery inside of that. So we manufactured all of our stuff there. In fact, we still distill there. But we saw the writing on the wall with the growth that we were experiencing. So we signed a lease on a building in Monument, which is about 20 minutes away from Brooklyn's. And so it's a 5,000 square foot building. And so we built and opened a second tasting room there. We just call it the Monument Tasting Room. And one of the things that we did for this summer is purchase a slushie machine. So we have boozy slushies there that they just are in fact starting a new one right now that's with our Alpine liqueur. So it's kind of like an herbal type slushy. And then we have our strawberry lemonade, I think, is the other one with our strawberry ginger gin. But we switch out the flavors pretty frequently so that anyone in the area that comes to the tasting room can get themselves a boozy slushy, and they're incredible.
Yeah, I try not to have my nose like too terribly high in the air about things, but when I heard about the slushy machine coming, I just remember kind of not necessarily rolling my eyes, but then when that first batch came out and I tasted it, I was just like, God, that's really good. Like that's really enjoyable, especially like when it's warm out.
Oh yeah, I could go for those right now.
One of the things that Colorado did as a result of COVID was they reduced like the maximum occupancy of all restaurants and bars and so on. But they created a streamlined process where if you didn't have patio seating, you could submit to your local authority and to the state, and they would modify your liquor license like almost immediately so that you could then have seating outside. So we didn't originally have seating outside in Monument, but we went through the process and like it was literally like a couple of hour turnaround. So we were able to expand, and so now we have outdoor seating, so you can enjoy outside our slushies in the sunshine, and it's awesome.
Didn't they also make it a thing where as long as it's sealed, you can sell slushies for people to take and drive away with?
Yep.
Because
We haven't actually sold the slushies to go just because of melting issues, but yeah, we have to go cocktails for sure. So you can buy like a 750 of our martini and so on. So that was really, really helpful.
Yeah,
and it's been awesome.
When I was in Colorado about a month or two ago, my mom got one, and obviously she liked it, and she was like, you know what? I really hope people don't unseal these while drinking or while driving.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That was a huge thing that the governor and our local, like the Colorado Distillers Guild, they were really harped on, like, we have to put a special like label with special wording on the bottles that says, obviously don't open this. It has to be a sealed container and so on. So yeah, they were definitely aware of that happening.
Well, it's good that Colorado, at least like the government and the legislation that's producing these laws, at least they're pretty receptive to the food, bar, and beverage industry is in terms of making your guys' business.
Yeah, for sure. Colorado's always been like one of the pioneers in the brewing industry, and then once distilling sort of had its resurgence, Colorado was kind of leading the charge with like California and New York and Washington and Oregon. And so like our local governments, both at the city and the state level, have been really, really good. They've always been kind of on top of this industry. And because it's so big in our state, they've usually been really helpful in helping us navigate and really business friendly for the most part. So that's been really good.
Yeah, that's awesome. What was the first spirit that you guys produced through Lee Spirits?
The first one we made was our dry gin. So we really, really were focused on creating pre-prohibition era cocktails. And the more research we did, the more we realized that the vast majority of cocktails that were created around that era, gin was the base spirit. So we worked for a really long time. Phil mentioned Nate, who was our original head bartender and sort of head of R&D. He helped us in the origination process too before we were even open, formulate the gin. And I think we went through something like 32 different formulations. And we had always created it with the intent of it going in a cocktail. So we literally, Ian and I would distill a batch and we would take it straight to the bar where Nate was working, and he would make the two we used were the martini and the Negroni. And so he would make those two at the bar and we would taste, and then we would reformulate based on what it tasted like in those cocktails, not what it tasted like on its own. So that was sort of how the whole thing came about, was really like making the best martini and Negroni gin that we possibly could. And it just so happens that it also is amazing in like almost every other cocktail. So yeah, that was sort of the first product ever and how we came about that.
Very nice. Yeah, it sounds like you guys have started mastering your craft with the gin, and now I believe you've expanded, right? You guys now have like hard lemonades, you have whiskeys. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh no, yeah. So we do have currently one whiskey that we're working on, or rather that we have. We're also working on another one right now. But we also have a line of flavored gins. We have a lavender gin that actually uses dried lavender buds from the Provence region of France. In addition to strawberry ginger gin, which has won several awards lately, which is fantastic. And that's with natural strawberry, natural ginger, and then the gin Fuego, which was, if I understand very well, a passion project for both the Lees. which is a chili de arbol, Fresno pepper, jalapeno, and cinnamon infused gin. And it's just really fun and it's really dynamic in cocktails, just bring a nice spice element to things. But in addition to that, like the liqueurs we had to make for the back bar for the tasting room to operate, some of them we just dialed in and made incredibly well that we decided to put labels on them and actually bring them out to the market. And like we have the creme de violette, which is a beautiful pre-prohibition liqueur that was very important in a lot of cocktails, including the aviation. In fact, they made each other popular. The creme de violette giving the aviation its beautiful sky blue color, of which it was named after. But also the creme de rose, creme de cacao. We have a forbidden fruit, which is another wonderfully historical product that actually got cut sometime around the 60s, 70s. And then we have an Alpine liqueur as well. And then we have a couple of Brooklyn's exclusives. There's just, like I said, the leads just allow me to kind of like take off with whatever I feel is creative, whatever is fun for me to do. And there's a couple of Brooklyn's exclusives that we only sell out of the tasting rooms that we have, which is the coffee liqueur, which we came out with last year, the vanilla liqueur, which was a couple months ago. And we actually have a Navy strength gin now, which came out this past month. And those you can only get out of the tasting room. So it's like a nice little like thank you to the community that help bring us up too. So
Yeah, and then as
Yeah.
you mentioned, we have the RTD ready to drink products. So we have a strawberry lemonade and a lavender lemonade, which is just our lavender gin mixed with a lemonade that we formulated, and then our strawberry ginger gin mixed with a lemonade that we formulated. And those really came about because every time we would go to a festival or a tasting or anything like that, we would always feature our lavender gin in just with lemonade. So, and we just called it lavender lemonade. And like every single place that we went, people just absolutely loved it. I mean, they would come back for seconds and thirds and fourths and fifths. And so over time, we just realized like we have to get this out to the market somehow. And the best way to do it was just cans. And obviously, as you guys know, the canned cocktails and the hard seltzers right now are just exploding. So we launched those two products in cans, and they have been absolutely, I mean, just blowing up. We've expanded actually into Nebraska with those two this past couple of weeks. So they've been really, really successful for us. And we have two new flavors of our canned cocktails coming out later this month too. Whiskey lemonade, which will be whiskey obviously mixed with lemonade, and then gin fuego lemonade. So our spicy gin mixed with lemonade as well. And then we'll have all four of those cans available in a variety pack together. So we're really looking forward to how those products are successful.
Sounds like you got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of really good stuff. One of the things that kind of sparked my attention was I think I heard a jalapeno gin. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's the gin fuego gin. So it starts with our dry gin, and then we infuse it with cinnamon and Mexican peppers. And so it's just a spicy sort of cinnamony, peppery gin that goes really. You can sip it on its own, or it goes really, really well in any cocktail that would have regular gin. It adds sort of a kick there, so it gives a lot of variety.
Yeah, we're really into hot foods, so I can only imagine how amazing the experience is of having that.
Yeah, it's fun. Definitely the Martinez, which is a beautiful classic cocktail, and the Bee's Knees are two of our more popular drinks here at Brooklands. They're actually even more popular as like their Fuego variant, like the spicy Bee's Knees, which is going to be the gin Fuego, honey and lemon. It's just beautiful and refreshing, and got that beautiful kick. And the Martinez, which is essentially the gin version of a Manhattan. It's very, very similar. It gives it that nice, beautiful, robust kind of nature of a cocktail while having that, like, again, that nice little spicy kick to it, giving it a little bit of an edge.
That sounds so good. One thing that I don't believe I heard was the pistachio liqueur. Josh told me to bring that up.
Jesus. So I like pistachios. I like them a lot. Every time I work in the Monument tasting room, there's a 7-Eleven like right across the street. I always pick up those pistachio bags. So like I just one day was like, okay, I'm gonna do a liqueur with this, and it's been really well beloved so far. I had a good friend of mine. He's a pastry chef. He worked over at the Broadmoor here in town, and he just opened up his own little sweets bar. And I tasted him on it, and he absolutely adored it. He said it reminds him of like when he makes pistachio paste for desserts. But yeah, no, it's in development. It was just like an off the cuff idea I wanted to do, and people keep telling me they just want to. It's not available on the market right now because it's still in development. But people just keep telling me that they want it, and they just like sipping on it. But it goes really fantastic in cocktails too. You know, like hazelnut and like walnut and almond has been popular in cocktails for God knows how long. But pistachio apparently is fun for a lot of people.
Yeah, pistachio's been on the rise. They even have like ice cream now that's pistachio flavored, and teas and herbal drinks with it. So yeah, I'm sure liqueur is the next big step, right?
Yeah, no, it should be really fun. Again, I've only gotten like positive reviews from everybody on it, which is mind blowing to me because like I just like pistachios, so I was like, I'm just gonna make this. It's gonna be something that's just on the bar, but like it's kind of blowing up a little bit with people I taste it on.
Yeah, over in Europe, anywhere where like gelato is a thing, like pistachio gelato is like a hallmark. It's everywhere, and it is incredible.
The last cafe I worked at, we did affogatos with gelato.
Oh my gosh.
We had vanilla, chocolate, and then pistachio gelatos. And then just espresso right over that, and it was just amazing.
Oh my gosh. So good. So it sounds like you've been having a really busy year this year, and on top of all that, we were told that you turned your distillery into a hand sanitizer plant for a few weeks. I was wondering if you could expand on that.
Yeah, as soon as COVID hit, we realized that we were in a unique position where we had all of the required things to be able to produce hand sanitizer on a massive scale. The local government, I guess the state government, in line with our Distillers Guild in Colorado, which has been just absolutely fantastic, worked together to sort of make it possible for us to do that. And so as soon as those regulations went into place, we basically ramped up. And since we had lines on sourcing all of the stuff that we needed, we were able to just basically flip the switch and start churning out hand sanitizer, which we did. And so we sold it in 5-gallon buckets and 1-gallon containers and like small hand containers. And we even sold a few 270-gallon totes to like large commercial operations. And so we sold it to like the local county emergency response department and local hospitals and just individual people and like local assisted living facilities. And so it was just really, really cool for us to be able to keep our employees with some hours helping manufacture that, so we didn't have to fully lay anyone off, thank goodness. And just something for us to do to just give back to the community and kind of try to help mitigate this pandemic in any way that we possibly could. So we were really, really excited by that and just jumped on it as soon as absolutely possible.
Absolutely. That's definitely something that you guys should be proud of. Have you ever considered making your own like branded hand sanitizer as well, entering that industry?
Not really. We kind of like, once the big companies were able to meet demand, like there's no way we could scale to like compete with like a Purell or something like that. Wasn't going to happen. Johnson and Johnson and those types of companies have that market cornered. So we'll just stick with making really awesome spirits.
Fair enough.
What is I guess like what is the lifetime of a product that's in R&D? Like how long is that phase last?
Oh, so that really depends. So the lifetime of it is really funny. So I mean, obviously it starts as an idea, or for some products that we use for the back bar only, I'll try to make some facsimiles of liqueurs that are already on the market, just so we have a little bit more versatility behind the bar. So if it's a name brand I'm trying to replicate, I'll obviously bring it in, taste it with my R&D team, which is me and one other person. And so we'll go through it, or if it's an original idea, I'll start workshopping just tasting notes I want from it as well, and then using whatever botanicals I need to move in that direction. But once that's started, it starts at an incredibly small scale, usually about 2 liters of alcohol total. And then every time we upscale, I have to modify the recipe because when you start so small, you'll find errors, when something wasn't supposed to be 1 gram, but, much later you find out it's supposed to be 0.99 grams when you upscale things. Once it gets to a reasonable size, then all it is really is submitting the formula to the TTB, which regulates alcohol for distilleries. And then once that formula is approved and we're ready to go, we make a label for it and submit the label, make sure that the TTB approves the label because it has to have a certain set of requirements on it. Like, it has to have the proof, the amount of alcohol on it, 750 milliliters for those kind of bottles and whatnot. That it's representing whatever name it is, representing somehow the main flavor and things like that. And then, yeah, it once it's labeled and market ready, it's good to go. But yeah, a lot of R&D beyond just like the making it is using the tasting rooms as kind of a laboratory to kind of get objective opinions on the flavors that are coming out from it. Like sometimes I can be a little too close to the picture and just be like, this is perfect, this is great. But if every single one of my guests come in and they're like, this is a little weird and like it's a little tough to kind of swallow, like for these reasons, then the tasting room's a perfect way for us to kind of get another objective view on any of our products during R&D as well. So a lot of that takes up some of the time, just making sure that it's marketable, like it's a well-liked flavor for people as well.
Yeah, that's been a really important sort of part of the process for us determining which products to take to market. Instead of us just developing something that we all think is awesome and sending it out to the market and seeing how it does on a massive scale, we can use our tasting rooms as sort of the test market where we can create new products and put them in our cocktails and talk about them behind the bar with all of our customers. And how our guests respond, it really lets us know how we'll do on a wider scale in the market in general. So like Phil says, if the guests come in and they're like, oh, this is weird, I don't really like it, can I have another cocktail? We know that there's no reason to take that into the liquor stores throughout Colorado and in neighboring states. But if we just keep hearing how awesome this product is and people are coming in to request this specific cocktail because of this one product, and that really gives us an idea that we might be onto something, and it's probably worth pushing that out to a wider audience.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've definitely had both those things happen. The pistachio liqueur, like you heard before, it's like everyone's favorite thing right now, which is too funny. The Fernet I make amongst bartenders has been incredibly well received. I've had a couple bartenders tell me they like it better than Fernet Branca. I won't name names because it's kind of sacrilegious amongst the bartending community. But then there's definitely things where, yeah, I've made it and people were like, this is absolutely intolerable. And I'm just like, I'm so sorry that I gave this to you. I'll get you something else. I'm sorry.
You ever have any unique experiences or favorite memories with the tasting rooms?
Oh man, that's a big question.
So I have a lot, but
Thank
I
you.
think something that's been important for me, which sort of just gives validation to the whole why we created Brooklands and the distillery in the first place, is being the one who runs the business from the corporate perspective and getting really down in the weeds of spreadsheets and accounting and paying bills and all these things. Sometimes I forget what we're really doing, but every time I come to the tasting room and just sit in the corner with my wife and see all of our guests enjoying the cocktails, it really brings it back to me for why we did this. And it's just awesome to see people enjoying the thing that we built, which is something that we never got from the software or the other projects that we had. To be able to just sit in a room and literally just sort of bathe in people enjoying what you did, it's just something that I had never experienced before in my other companies, for sure. So the tasting room is always the space that reminds us why we're doing what we're doing, which has just been awesome.
For me, I try to make, I mean, this is going to sound pedantic, but I try to make every experience here special for people. That's my career. This is my job. But we do our best every single time to make a great experience for everybody. If I could bring up one moment that I do adore, we had a New Year's event. Every New Year's, we actually just sell tickets. So it's a very private event. It's not just like a revolving door of a bunch of people who are bar crawling. It's a lot of like really great regulars who are just, really like love our work and enjoy the craft of what we do. They come, they hang out all New Year's long. We do a countdown. It's always very beautiful. It's one of my literal favorite times of the year to be working. But this past New Year's, actually, this couple came in, and the gentleman actually came in before service and told us he's going to propose to his wife. And we immediately were like, yes, duh, we're making this happen. Absolutely. And I just think, like personally, like, again, we try to make every single moment that people hear something special, but the fact that this is a special enough place for them and a safe and comfortable place for them to be, proposing to his wife in front of God knows how many people. I think that's beautiful. And I think that's the experience that we try to create here. And, that's probably my favorite moment so far.
That's an incredible story. And I think it's, like you said, it's like a testament to how special of a place it is. The real question is, did she say yes?
Just stormed out. No.
It'd be a much different story. Yeah.
It was actually really funny. If I may share this story, we always do a bunch of raffles on New Year's too, just give away a bunch of free stuff. But this year we had people pull the tickets out of the hat for other people, of course. And so for one of them, we had the gentleman go to pull a ticket out, and then he just pulls the ring out. And she was just stunned and completely surprised that was going to happen at all. And it was very tearful. Not on my part. I didn't tear up.
Yeah, of course not.
I was stoic. It was great. It was wonderful. I loved it.
Just looking around like who's cutting onions, right?
Right.
So you guys said you were established 2013, right?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So we usually ask this question. It's like, how does social media or digital marketing affect your business? Obviously, you guys are relatively new, so hopefully you guys are capitalizing in that space. Do you guys see a lot of conversions from online ads and social media presence?
For sure. So it's kind of interesting because the space that we live in, it's not the same as like the terms you use, right? Conversions and funnels and all of this stuff. We can't really measure that. So we can't run an ad and create funnels for these people, click rates and et cetera, and see how many people saw that ad and ended up buying a product. There's no way for us to track down to that detail. So we can't really do traditional digital marketing. For us, it's much more just public sentiment and brand awareness. So we're on Instagram and Facebook. Those are the two big ones that we really focus on. And we do the best that we can to create communities on those sites. So we have about 5,000 Facebook followers, and we do everything from posting new product releases to recipes and things like that. So that's really the way that we utilize social media as best we can, just to create a community and create brand awareness. And then we do some other targeted things our sales director just did a trip through some of the towns in the mountains. And so we ran targeted Facebook ads in those specific cities while he was there, and then a few weeks afterwards to raise some brand awareness among our potential accounts and potential customers in that area. So we do a lot of things like that, utilizing social media and ad campaigns there and stuff like that, in addition to just locally spreading awareness and getting people to walk to the doors of the tasting rooms and things like that.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm kind of a geek about, I don't know, just the business side of, software and digital marketing and stuff like that. So I figured I'd ask.
For sure.
I have a very good, very important question. And I'd say it's priority number one whenever it comes to podcasts. And that is, wait for it. Can I get a drum roll? No? Okay. Do you have ghost stories about your bar?
Yes.
Yes.
There's it's a little context. My mom, my adopted mother, she's a medium. She's talks with spirits. I don't know how much you believe in ghosts or not. I'm personally a skeptic, but I've also seen my mom do some interesting stuff. But and she's kind of try to integrate with me into that kind of other world ever since I was a little younger. There was a day where I was bartending. Now, so the front door, we do not exit through because it's a speakeasy. So we don't want to blow the cover. whatever the front is, the tie shop out front. So everyone exits through the back. So when someone tries to exit through the front, I always it's like, hey, like real quick, like don't go that way, like don't blow the cover. Exit's going to be through the back. There was one day when I was bartending, my head was down. I had like a line of tickets, and I saw somebody walking towards the door, and I tilt my head up to explain exactly that, and there's no one there. There was like just like a shadow like walking towards the door, and I look up and I just laugh to myself, and I go back to my work, and my bar back at the time was like, "What the hell was that? Like, what are you laughing at?" I was like, "I'll tell you later." And then I told him the story. And then like after like I recognized this, there were like certain little things that would happen. So the entire team just call him Winston now after our whiskey, Winston Lee. But yeah, every once in a while something will happen and we'll just blame Winston for it. But yeah, he's friendly. There's that.
Well, that's good. At least he's not malicious.
Yeah, exactly.
Malicious ghosts are the worst. They always take my lunch money.
So the one weird thing that kept happening, one of our servers, or rather now apprentice bartenders, Morgan, after work we would go, because we closed down at midnight, but bars closed down at 2. So we after work we would like go catch beer across the street at the bar across the street, and we'd come back, and apparently every time Morgan like came back, there would be a $5 bill on her purse. And no one has claimed this prank. And so everyone is really dead set that it's Winston. Because like, that's a phenomenal prank, right? Because it hurts nobody.
Mm-hmm.
She gets $5, but she's losing her mind as to how a $5 bill keeps landing in her purse when she comes back to work. And she was like yelling at us and accusing us, like, who is doing this? This is pissing me off. And it was none of us. So we still have no idea like who is running this prank, if it is anybody at all, or if it is just like the ghost, like materializing a $5 bill every single time.
It's like the opposite of pickpocketing.
Right. If he could materialize much more money, that would be the real.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty nice ghost, just leaving you some beer money there. So.
Right.
What is each of your favorite drinks through the distillery, whether it's a beer or a gin, whiskey? What is it?
Sure. Mine, I'm a big fan of bitter, so my favorite is Negroni. And so it's no accident that when we were formulating the dry gin in the beginning, that was one of the 2 cocktails that we really use as sort of the test. My second favorite is just classic gin martini.
For me, like I personally drink a lot of like spirits, and even some of the liqueurs just neat. But if I had to make myself a cocktail, I'm incredibly proud of our Manhattan. The Manhattan in general is one of my favorite drinks. People always ask me what my favorite drink to make is, which is always kind of troublesome because I don't prefer any drink. I just prefer that you have the right drink. But I would say I do give a little more time and attention to the Ramos Gin Fizz, which I know a lot of bartenders hate because it's like 5 minutes of shaking a cocktail. But I personally enjoy it. It's the craft that goes behind it.
What goes into preparing that drink?
Oh, so yeah, the Ramos is a pre-prohibition cocktail. It's gin, lemon, and lime, simple syrup, soda water, orange flower water, egg white, and heavy cream. So the reason it needs to be shaken for so long is that obviously lemon or any citrus is going to try to curdle the cream. So you have to like shake it past the point of curdling so it reintegrates. And to have like that nice frothy head on it as well from the egg white and the cream, you have to like shake it vigorously for. When Ramos wrote it down, finally, he said for 12 minutes. But he also had shaker boys he would build a cocktail and then they would just shake it for like 12 minutes and he would just pour it. Now that we know a little bit more about the science behind bartending, it only takes me about 4 or 5 minutes to shake. And that's all it is. And it just looks like a tall glass of milk. But yeah, I mean, it should taste very, very like a flower is what it's always said to taste like. So I just think it's a very beautiful and delicate cocktail.
Never had one, but definitely got to try it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I recommend coming here to try one because, again, most bartenders hate hearing that order.
Takes a lot of effort into making it.
Right, exactly.
So we talked about earlier how you guys minimize risk through testing your products or like a new idea in the taste rooms, and before putting it out on the shelves, you minimize the risk. What is something that you would say that I guess something that you had failed at, or something that you hadn't optimized before, but now you're starting to figure out that streamlined process?
Yeah, I mean, it's a daily occurrence, I think, where we learn about something that we can do better and more efficiently than we had done before. Um, it also goes along with like how we made conscious efforts to scale. So, as an example, we didn't have a bottling machine until about a year ago. Everything that we did prior to that point was hand bottled. So, we would have bottling days where all of our staff would come in and we would just take a big drum of whiskey or whatever the product happened to be, and we would all work together to hand bottle and hand label all of the products. And we then eventually, like, we didn't have a choice. We had to buy like a labeling machine and a bottling machine. And so those are the types of things where, like, in retrospect, maybe we could have bought a bottling machine in the beginning and been much more efficient. But I think it just really helped us actually to sort of hone our manufacturing processes and really know sort of where the bottlenecks, pun intended, existed, so that we could figure those out in the beginning. And now we know, like, if our bottling machine broke, we would know exactly what to do to hand bottle all of our products and meet demand. Where, like, if you start from day one with a bottling machine and that happens, like, it's game over for you. There's no way you'd be able to make that happen just overnight. So we've done everything by hand, and now that we've automated some of the stuff, we always know how we can go back to doing it by hand if we ever had to. So just that kind of things, just scaling the business in the way that we intentionally did, really gave us a lot of knowledge and experience to sort of avoid some of those mistakes, and going forward help us to automate even more efficiently, I think.
Well said. I mean, automation is only as good as, like you said, knowing the theory and the practice behind it. So I think you guys did a pretty good job
Right.
there. And you mentioned that Colorado specifically is known for the brewing and distilling, and also just being really open to new ideas and stuff like that. Have any other businesses in the space tried to collaborate with Lee Spirits?
Yeah, for sure. We've had some awesome collaborations. Actually, before we had our own whiskey, we released two different versions of a barrel aged gin. And so we sourced used whiskey barrels from two different local distilleries and aged our gin in those barrels and released, like I said, two different versions of that were really, really successful locally. So that was awesome. And then just since we're a tasting room and not a restaurant, and we try not to really compete with like the local liquor stores or restaurants or bars, because in addition to us having a tasting room, like, they're also our customers. Like, they buy our products to sell in their bars, right, in their cocktails and so on. And so we had a lot of interesting collaborations with like local restaurants and bars. There's a Bingo Burger. It's a local Colorado like burger shop, but they have boozy milkshakes. And so we've done a lot of, they're right down the street from us, some collaborations where they use our creme de cacao liqueur as a chocolate liqueur in their milkshakes, which has been really awesome. So just a ton of examples of like local collaboration like that, which have been really, really successful for everyone involved and just really awesome in our local community.
Very cool. Yeah. Are you guys both originally from Colorado?
Nope, I'm from Texas, but I moved here when I was 3, so I basically claim it
Yeah.
as being local. But
Yeah, I was born in the Philippines, but I was raised in Arizona until I was about 10 or 11 years old, and then I came here, and I've been here for since then, so almost 20 years. So the majority of my life's been here, anyways.
Right. Yeah. The reason I ask is just because it seems like you guys are pretty ingrained in the culture and you understand your community. Do you think that other Lee Spirit establishments or branches could work in other places of the U.S., or is that something that you think is going to be pretty close knit to the Colorado community?
we've actually considered that a lot. And I think, yes, that it could be successful in other places, but it would be less about the brand like it is here and just more about the overall experience as a just generic bar.
Mhm.
So, like, when you walk into our tasting rooms, we very intentionally made it like the talking points of the staff and the way that it's designed and so on. Like, that it's a tasting room, even though it also is one of the most successful like cocktail bars in the area. If we did that in, like, let's say, just hypothetically, we went to Arizona and tried to model Brooklyn's on Boulder Street there, we would have obviously much less brand recognition. So it would be more about just being a really awesome cocktail bar and less about a tasting room for the brand, which would still be fine. and it would still, my estimate is, would be successful, but it would be less about sort of spreading the Lee Spirits brand and more about just creating a really awesome cocktail room. Like I remember I was in Kansas City one time, and they have a really, really neat like downtown area it's fairly recent, with like restaurants and bars and like stage for performances and stuff. And when I was there was a Maker's Mark lounge, which I had never heard of. And so I went inside, and it was just a really cool restaurant but to me, it didn't feel like authentic or really like it worked, because they weren't really pushing Maker's Mark, even though that was like the title of the place. They had Maker's Mark, and many of their cocktails featured Maker's Mark, but it was just a restaurant, and you could get they had all kinds of other things that weren't Maker's Mark, and just a regular cocktail menu and beers and like so on. So we would have to sort of find a fine line between making it all about Lee Spirits and just making it a really, really good cocktail bar without pushing Lee Spirits. I think it could work, but it's not something that we've really considered seriously, because we're just so ingrained, like you said, in Colorado right now, and being a Colorado company, like we are distributed in other states, but as far as taking a tasting room there, that's not on the horizon really right now anyways.
It's special that it's in Colorado, and all the businesses that you're running there are, it's about brand recognition and theme. So what kind of aesthetics do you guys have within the establishments to make it feel like that extra specialness?
So Brooklyn's, like Phil mentioned earlier, is designed like a speakeasy. So a lot of design aesthetic and really focus went into, looking at actual, drawings and photographs of speakeasies in the Prohibition era and that kind of stuff. We actually also we have a really cool museum in town called the Pioneers Museum, and they're responsible for all of like the history of the era and artwork and stuff. And so we went down there and we had them pull photographs of Colorado Springs specifically during Prohibition. And it was really, really cool to see like speakeasies and bars. Some of the bars, they had photos of bars that like still exist in town right now. And so we use that as a lot of inspiration. In fact, we have a wall in Brooklands that is those photos, and it's just hung up like an old pool hall from like 1923 that was in Colorado Springs, and stuff like that. And so it's basically designed truly like a speakeasy. We have blackout curtains, so you can't even see outside. And you walk into a little vestibule that's designed like an old haberdashery. So we have like a board hung up with the prices of 1920s, like prices of suits. And we have like bow ties hung up and derby hats and stuff like that. And then you ring a doorbell, and some staff comes and opens the slider in the door, and then asks you how many are in your party and so on. And then they let you in the door. And like Phil said, you exit out the back and like, etc. So it's really like speakeasy-esque. And we did a lot of work to make that sort of authentic. Monument, we took a completely different approach, and we really wanted it to be identifiable as a distillery tasting room. So you walk in and it still has a bar, and like where we made the aesthetic where it's much more focused on sort of the craft of creation of the cocktails, than it is sort of the speakeasy experience like Brooklyn is. So they're both like completely unique experiences, and we designed them intentionally to be that, and put a lot of work in, the colors and the bar designs and so on to make them sort of effective at both of those different things.
That's so cool when you're talking about Brooklands and how you have to like ring a doorbell and someone comes and greets you. So you're really, you're creating an experience that's unforgettable before they even step in the building, right? So that's so cool.
Yeah, and the story is there's all kinds of funny stories too, because when we were thinking about the vestibule and what to make it, we had all kinds of different ideas, like let's make it a bookstore with like a secret shelf, or let's make it like a dentist's office with like a 1920s dentist chair was one of the original ideas. And we had actually had settled on, we were going to make it an old like hammer shop. So we're going to get a bunch of old hammers and like hang it up, and then you would go behind this like secret wall to get in. And then like at the last minute, basically, we were set on that and like had already had some drawings and stuff. My cousin came to me and was like, what if we make it like a 1920s like haberdashery with like suits and stuff, and let's name it after your daughter Brooklyn? And we both were just like, yes, like that is awesome. And it works so much better than any of our other ideas. And so I actually went and looked up photographs of old haberdasheries up in Denver, like an hour away from us on Colfax Avenue. And so we took those pictures from the 1920s and like tried to replicate sort of the feel and aesthetics in our little vestibule that's like, I don't even know, 40 square feet or something, to match those like original pictures. And so that's the origin of our little vestibule.
Yeah, the vestibule experience is actually something I noticed a lot when I worked on as a server here some 3 years ago now. There's a little sliding window. so like to greet the guests, you like slide the window open, you're like, ask them like how many or whatever. And it's a fun experience for everybody. They tend to enjoy it. I often get people filming me on Snapchat or Instagram about coming here, and then pretty much waiting for me to open up that sliding window, and then like there's my face, which is funny because I'm tall, so all I can really see is my mouth or nowadays mask. And it's a really fun experience for everybody. And like the second they get let in, the second they walk in, like even from like where I stand, I think behind the bar, I can just see their mouths, and they're literally just like, "Wow!" Like I've heard people say, "This is fun." Like they haven't sat down, they haven't ordered a drink, and like I hear people often like, "This is fun." And just the ambiance that it lends I think is an enjoyable experience for a lot of people, including the way you get let in through the vestibule.
Sounds like we need to go over to Colorado.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
definitely.
Well, while we're on the topic, we're gonna make a stop out in Colorado. What are some of your guys' favorite restaurants in the area?
Here in Colorado Springs, I'm a big fan of the Warehouse. Chef James Africano over there is absolutely magnificent. Love his work. He's always come up with really unique ideas through his medium, and I think it's absolutely gorgeous. Chef Brother Luck was on a television show recently. He got pretty far. What was the show? Do you remember the show? Damn it. But yeah, Four by Brother Luck is his restaurant. 503 West, a lot of great chefs over there, a lot of great bartenders as well. A lot of the cocktailers over there are good friends of ours. One of my favorite places to go. It's a wonderful Korean American fusion restaurant.
Yeah, we have a restaurant called Pig Latin that actually started out as a food truck, and they were really, really incredible, like Cuban food. And we would actually they were often in a parking lot right next to where we were, so we would eat there all the time. And they were so successful that they opened up their own brick and mortar restaurant, and they're just incredible. Their food is really, really good.
That's so cool. You guys spend a lot of time, testing new products, having a couple of drinks, stuff like that. In your opinion, is there a hangover recipe?
I've heard 1,000 different hangover recipes by this point, including there's two pretty famous hangover cocktails. One of them being the Corpse Reviver #2. The #1 is also phenomenal. The #1 is actually my preferred. #2 is probably the more popular one you'll see. It's gin, lillet, lemon juice, Cointreau, and absinthe. Get that right? I think I got that right.
Seems a little dangerous.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's really bright. It's like overly refreshingly bright, and it's really there to like really pick you up. And then the other one, a Corpse Driver #1, which is funny, is brandy, apple brandy, and sweet vermouth, and it does the opposite. It's just very heavy. It's like that guy who's like drinking gravy the day after just to just get everything out of his system and just. But yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of different hangover cocktails. And the other one would be Suffering Bastard, which is named after the person who was experiencing the hangover. But apparently, it created in Cairo, Egypt. It was meant to like help treat hangovers, and apparently, according to the history I've read on it so far, it helped the British win the war in North Africa during World War II. And because they were like, they had these tonics to make sure that they were like, perked up and ready to go.
I've always been partial to the Bloody Mary. I don't think it cures hangovers, but it is delicious. If anything, it just delays the hangover.
Yeah.
So we can make one, and we've had it featured in like local restaurants and bars, a Gin Fuego martini, or sorry, Bloody Mary. So Bloody Mary with our Gin Fuego that adds even like more of a kick and sort of more nuance with pepper and spice in the gin, which is really, really good.
That sounds so good. So we're gonna start winding down the show. I got some off topic questions and some fun ones. If you weren't operating Lee Spirits, what do you guys see yourselves doing?
So I actually, in addition to operating Lee Spirits, I'm a professor at the local university. So if I wasn't doing Lee Spirits, I would invest more time into just my research and work and teaching there.
Right on.
For me, again, I've been in the hospitality industry for what feels like forever now. last year I finished up my Somm 1, my sommelier level 1, and my Cicerone level 1, which is essentially the beer version of that. And currently I'm studying for both my Somm 2 and my Cicerone 2 at the same time, which is moronic of me. But I would probably still be in the hospitality industry. I would probably most likely still be bartending. Probably working towards like a sommelier job at some point, but
And we're starting to run a little bit out of time, so I'm going to ask one more. If you could give any advice to any bartenders or anyone that's looking to get into the industry, what advice would that be?
my 3 main things about advice to bartenders, and like even my barbacks and the things I yell at my own team about, is communication, be it with the your team or with the guest. Communication is important. Efficiency, being able to do things quickly and well. Like, if you can wash a dish faster than everybody else, but they're all like cloudy and muddy, like it's going to be bad. And then the last one would be tidiness, because one of my biggest harps on a bar is like when it's not wiped down, or you belly up to a bar, you put your elbows down, it's a little sticky.
Oh, that's the worst.
I think it just completely ruins the experience. So I think those are the 3 things every bartender should always have in mind: is communication, efficiency, and cleanliness at all times, or tidiness.
And
For me, I think that it had, like, I'll focus on the sort of spirits distillery industry side. I am lucky in having Ian as my co-founder. Ian's an engineer, his background, and I actually have a degree in business finance. So those 2 things combined really made it easy for us to not have to spend a lot of time focusing on the business side of things as far as like gaining knowledge, and really being free to gain as much knowledge and spend our time learning all the nuances of the spirits industry and how cocktails are created and like how distillation works and so on. I would say for someone that's first getting into, like, I want to make a distillery, or I want to create a tasting room, or I want my own vodka or whatever, that I've seen so many people that are really, really creative that actually make pretty decent products that just aren't successful because they don't understand just like business 101. So if anyone that is out there that wants to start a distillery or create their own sort of that type of thing, I would say just find local resources to gain that sort of just basic fundamental business knowledge. I think will exponentially just increase their chances of being successful.
well said. Do you teach business at the college?
No, actually, I have an undergraduate degree in business finance. Then I got a second degree in psychology. Then I went on and got my master's degree in sociology. So I teach sociology.
Okay, very cool. And then lastly, what social media platforms are you guys on, and where can people find you on your website?
Yeah, so our website is leespirits.com. We are on Instagram at Lee Spirits Co. And then we're on Facebook as well. Just search Lee Spirits and it will show up. And we have a main company, Lee Spirits Facebook page, and then we have a Facebook page for each of the tasting rooms as well. So you can search Brooklyn's on Boulder to find that tasting rooms page, and then Monument Lee Spirits Tasting Room is the other Facebook page for that one specifically.
Very cool. Thanks for your time, guys. It's been a good one.
Absolutely.
All right, After Hours Nation, we hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to stay updated, you can check out our site at afterhourscast.com. Don't forget to tune in next Tuesday morning for our next episode. After Hours Nation, stay thirsty, my friends.